Sorry, my camera shut off all of a sudden. Anyway, fingerprint identification of one's intellect or way is to say that the Holy Spirit is a black man. He's in lack of a physical presence, something you communicate with. Should be to whom you communicate with from your own center point of gravity. You see, they've killed almost every friend I know. They've reached in through the intellect or through the Delta State. Just like what it was the attack of the buffalo on the plains, where from another angle they found out those buffalo was native tribes because they carried and they were part of the land. Then they vowed to kill the queen's first son or the king's first son, which would be himself, because they didn't tell him. But the thing is, it didn't happen then, it happens now, because it's expanding light. Following information in uniform code and ordinance is the bottleneck, the War of 300. It's to force everybody into one belief and sync like the administration or the administrational cycle in sync. But you see, if you're all bound to live your own independent way of the only ways that you see, means that your own moral code and compass is very important, and not to follow another, and to be forced employment, slowly misguiding the ship into hostile territory, working from multiple different points. So where Christopher, or my mother's ceremony, marriage, they never had consummation of marriage, which would be child. Each one of you are the union of God, of creation, of your own marriage, of your mother and father, born perfect. Call yourself a sinner and say that the original creator or the creator of matter. See, the church did create matter, and that is to force you away, and they are creating matter by forcing you away against your will. But to be self-employed, entrepreneurship means that you're employed, and you'll choose the hard way every time. Defend your life, land, and liberty at all means, at all costs, and stand for one another. To work with the help that you won't be dragged by your heritage and divorce the earth and stand up in this false realm of heaven and pay your 10% to get there, that they've got the means to tell you that you've got the right to be there or not. And get into the dream state called kidnapping, and it's to get you in your sleep. Alright? Get you, that's why it's called kidnapping. So where are the police departments of these privatized cities? If you look at when Saddam Hussein, it says, they'll attack from within your infrastructure, there's nothing you can do about it. And they buried Osama bin Laden out to sea. And then they say out there on there, they say no wind turbines. No wind turbines, of power. What are they talking about? A windmill that creates power, or a turbine that you wrap around your head? Being buried out to sea is being buried by society. Being all red. It is the Jacob's Ladder. I am the king of wells, that's for sure. I'm good at creating people, bringing them back to being well. Not over the worker or that or anything like that, or the king over anybody. I'm never considered myself to be over anyone or say that you should ever understand me. We can understand and learn something together, to comprehend, to work together. But I'll never hold you to that, and I'd never judge you, nor would I ever forgive you, because if I forgive you, then you would hate me, because your internal compass says that you're wrong for doing what you're doing. You don't have a boss, and no God would make you follow or bow, because he'd make himself bow. And it's still the same thing. If you went to Oregon and you looked at the Lottery Commission using the Apache license, they're not granted to do so, and Richard Ramirez, which means dick, right? Remarrying the seed of Oregon State Lottery or Oregon State means they're considering the people to be $1. Of Office Recovery Services out of Utah or IRS. Now let me explain. If workman's comp requires for average contracted business 60%, then it's zeroed out to 100%. That still leaves you with 40%. Then the state takes 26% or 25%, and the feds take 26%. It still leaves you with like a negative number there. And then you got insurance and securities. Right now I can go to any federal or any state office or any judge and there'll be a security guard standing there. Well, you see, they already stood on the neck of all these people. George Floyd, which is fake. That means the bottleneck. They rolled it. Police departments. See, they're not, those code enforcements over the city aren't state police. They're not. They're private. They're private foreign mercenary and domestic violence. That means they're a foreign domestic code. So in the state, in Utah, or on Utah, they tore down Geneva Steel Plant, Geneva Convention, to tear down the agreements of your war. Trying to tear down a physical thing, to tear down the agreements of the European Union. Or HAGU, or in reverse of habeas corpus. And they're using habeas corpus to, I mean, seriously, the emergency of it is a tsunami. It's the sea hitting the shore, and they're covering up waterways because anybody that knows water, you know, if you go to a river and you change the rocks in the river and you change the flow, it will calm the whole environment, the people. It's vibration. So they put it in coverts and they cover up the rivers and it chases the animals out into the streets. But you're connected to those in that hole. That emergency of 911, which is 10/29/1980, is when I was, as a little kid, my stepdad, boom, pushed me against the wall. My spirit fell through the wall down to the stairs, called stepdad. Father-in-law is not really a father, but he created union with me by putting fear of me when I was a child. There's a difference between union of good and union of fear. He was a missionary of the LDS and of a city of Bountiful as the hostage negotiator. And then they give the human trafficking to truck drivers. I was in transportation, the policy is taken over. They can't force identification. But the regulation, they're regulating privatized businesses and regulating them through their products and enforcement. That's why they call it corporate policy, and that's called corporate punishment. And that's what COVID is, the Ring of Fire in Bandon. It's Burns and Hines and end up Bandon and Bend, Oregon, and North Bend, and Crescent City, California. Christopher was born 1957. And supposedly Bend, or Crescent City, and then went to Bend, so it's Cities of the Moon, right? But see, 1964, that's when Carrie was born. That's when the tsunami came in. My other daughter, she's born in 2011, that was another tsunami. But the thing is it's burned 3 times, and the land's moving bleak. Property is your properness, your heritage. Your children are employed to that. Forced employment, that's against child labor laws. That's also that the property flows across the land. It goes out to sea, the shadow. They're not allowed to catch it. Use radiation between 2 fields, which is the radios. But radiation, even down to a religious between state and the pineal gland, that's to put any weight between your left and right, cause abandonment. That's a weapon of mass destruction, putting men and women in an action of war. It's a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, of the 911 emergency system, and they've got them big horns out there for tsunamis that are putting off a vibration, and they're covering up the natural sounds of Earth, and then playing a sound. And then they play they do an ear tone test in the sewer systems, but it's to keep your inner ear, all right, which is your equilibrium, of your cerebellum and keep you subdivided slightly. Just keep your soul slightly outside yourself, which they can impede and get inside and subdivide you by fragmentation, by fear. So where a city's meant to care for you, and the only exemption they get is by being caring, cleaning up the property, road work and stuff like that, and they're giving it out. Now, what it is a third-party admissible testimony, right? That means you can't pass your civic fucking duty to somebody else, to taxation. So if you're giving your problems away, and I'm out here on the street, or other people are out here dealing with you surrendering your civil rights, and you're right away, we're paying for what you're fucking doing. And that's why you don't like us. Because we're out here, you're forcing me to figure out your fucking problems, your biblical things and other things, and I've already gave you bounce. The world will always give you bounce. Coat of many colors is the black skin. It puts off a bright rainbow color. It's just like, you know what I mean? Cain was disabled. Well, of course he was disabled. He had to use a cane, right? From his knees, kidneys, family needs, the kin, the family. That's all up there at the cranberry fields up there, and they patent it to Ocean Spray and to the Union, and go up there, they'll hold people hostage up there to keep the berries off of them to catch that spirit coming back in, the property moves. So they can put it in my intellect in their information because they're standing above me. So to impede or to block or follow too close or block right of way means to be centered. Self-centered is a good thing. You got two buckets on the other side. It's not Jesus and it's not Satan. You're carrying two buckets. It's the opposition of left and right and your freedom of choice to decide. All right? It's your right of way. And you should not be impeded upon. Now these businesses that have, through COVID, which is the coronavirus is of an eclipse, the ring, or the light around the moon, the sun during the eclipse, or the eye. Now this is the big thing. You see, on 9/11, or with the Cuban Missile Crisis or any of them that all lines up, the tower moment of an emerging sea. You think that they would bring down a couple buildings? So when they put that fear in you, your innocence falls deep within inside of your perspective. And your natural statute of liberty, your own liberty, comes out in defense. Helplessness. You'll watch the whole world fall before your eyes. These buildings are still there in one night. But they want to subdivide you from yourself. Get you to relay and go towards the light, so they got control. And tag through the plain normal sea of a prison mining camp, breaking into the mind, into the cerebellum, so that you will mind and do as you're told. So when they say, do you mind if I search your bag? What they're saying is, are you going to act and try to attack me? Will you mind my command? Do as I tell you to do. It's not. Is it okay if I search your bag? It says, do you mind? Do you follow orders? Do you comply? They've reversed it from the left. Living on your left side. And taking your abandonment by forced abandonment. Jimmy Carter even says in the state of survival, the people that are in a state of survival have right to abandon assets because you're not an asset, but they're looking at you as asset and protecting the Wall Street and Walmart of a foreign code and policy and stating that they are the authority and property. But they're not property. They have no properness and they're taking your properness. And why they're trying to say I'm taking your property is because they're trying to piss you off to get you to act out so they can say that you were disorderly. So they're causing the cause of effect by passing it to you, and that's passing the taxes from that, and no corporation shall control the individual, and that gives us a corporation movement. That no group of individuals use of a physical David Copperfield, the Trojan Horse Statue of Liberty, to go inside of the mind and look out the eyes of another, of an emerging sea, to see from somebody else's point to get control. That means that they can read through radiation vibration through the intellect. The phone isn't real, it's communication. To reach credit card numbers to take your credit, and that's your doings. They didn't make the natives do that. The 420 Act is to deny you of life, land, and liberty, to say that there's no camping. When they're campaigning of a military enforcement of a Holocaustic City Hall Holocaust event, they are creating that Hitler was an innocent man. They're creating that from here by force of information. But you will fall and comply. They got into my spirit, my shadow, and have been going in. Have a good day.